Before the first sin was ever committed on earth, before the first breath of Adam was drawn from the dust, there existed a creature whose worship reached the heavens, a being whose devotion once shone so brightly that even angels knew his name. But beneath that brilliance was a spark that would one day ignite into eternal fire. This is not the story of a monster born in darkness. It is the story of light that turned against itself, of pride that rose too high and was cast into the abyss. The story of Iblis, the first to defy the command of his Lord, the first to turn obedience into rebellion, the first to fall. And his story is not just about him. It is about us. Every whisper of arrogance, every refusal to bow before truth, every moment we place our will above God's command is a spark from the same fire that consumed him. So, before we journey through his rise and ruin, pause for a moment. Ask yourself, how close are you to becoming what he became? If your heart seeks truth, if your soul longs to witness how divine mercy conquers pride, then subscribe and walk this path with us, because what you're about to hear is not just history. It is a mirror, a warning, and a calling.
Now, let us begin.
Before he was the cursed one, Iblis was among the devout, a jinn created from smokeless fire, restless, radiant, fierce. Yet within him burned a yearning to rise above his kind. While others among the jinn roamed freely between realms, Iblis worshipped. He bowed, he glorified, he stood in the company of angels. So great was his devotion that Allah, in his boundless mercy, allowed him to dwell among the hosts of heaven. There he witnessed the beauty of divine order. He heard the endless praises that filled the skies. He saw the light of the throne, a brilliance so overwhelming that no heart could contain its awe. And in those days, Iblis was among the foremost in obedience. His name was spoken with reverence. Even angels looked upon him with admiration, for a being of fire had chosen submission. But fire never truly rests. It flickers, it grows, it hungers. And deep within him, the spark of pride began to stir. Then came the decree that would test the heavens themselves. Allah created Adam from humble clay, shaped by his own hands, and breathed into him the spirit of life. The earth trembled at this creation. The angels stood in awe, and Iblis watched. He saw a being made of dust, fragile, imperfect, yet honored above him. He heard the command, "Bow before Adam," and the angels, pure, unquestioning, bowed. Their foreheads touched the ground, their hearts flooded with obedience. But Iblis remained standing. "I am better than him," he said, his voice cold with envy. "You created me from fire, and him from clay." The heavens fell silent. That single moment split creation between obedience and pride. He had revealed what no one else could see, that worship without humility is hollow. Then Allah spoke, "Descend from here. You are accursed. My mercy is no longer yours." And just like that, the one who once stood among the angels was cast out from their light. He fell, not through the sky, but through the depths of his own arrogance. As he descended,
His heart turned to flame. His name became a curse. But even in disgrace, he did not repent. He raised his gaze toward the heavens and said, "Then allow me respite until the day they are resurrected. I will lead them astray. I will come to them from before and behind, from their right and from their left, until gratitude fades from their hearts." And so began the vow that would echo through time, the war between guidance and deception, born not from darkness, but from pride that refused to kneel. This was the rise of Iblis, the worshipper who became the deceiver, the servant who turned against the throne. When pride was born, mercy departed. The fall of Iblis was not a single act. It was a slow unraveling of obedience, thread by thread, until devotion turned to defiance. He stood before his Creator, his form blazing with fire, his heart smoldering with arrogance. He had been raised among angels, honored by proximity to the throne, but honor without humility is poison, and Iblis had swallowed it whole. When Allah declared, "Bow before Adam," Iblis did not see divine wisdom. He saw competition. He saw himself, and he saw the clay before him. To him, fire was nobility, dust was weakness. He could not comprehend that Allah honors not material, but obedience. "Why should I bow to him?" he said, his voice trembling not from fear, but fury. "I am of fire, he is of clay." The heavens grew still. The angels bowed their heads in awe and sorrow, for they had witnessed what none had dared, a creature defying the command of his Lord. Then Allah said, "Descend from here, you are arrogant, you are among the disbelievers." And with that decree, the light around Iblis extinguished. The grace that had once clothed him vanished. The worshipper became the outcast. The fire that once burned in devotion now burned in wrath. He fell, not through distance, but through disgrace. He was cast from the mercy of Allah, and the heavens sealed their gates behind him. Yet even then, Allah's justice was absolute, for before punishment, He allowed Iblis to speak. "Grant me respite," he pleaded, "until the day they are resurrected." And Allah, in His infinite wisdom, replied, "You are among those reprieved, but your fate, and the fate of those who follow you, is the fire." It was not mercy that granted him time, it was purpose, for through Iblis, humanity would be tested. And so the deceiver's vow was born. "I swear by your might, I will lead them astray. I will beautify for them sin. I will surround them from all directions, and you will find most of them ungrateful." Those words echoed through creation like a curse. The earth shuddered. The angels lowered their gaze. And Iblis, now cloaked in hatred, descended upon the world he had once watched from above. He whispered to Adam and Hawa in Jannah. He sowed doubt within their peace. He tempted them with immortality, promising what he himself could never have. And when they slipped, he smiled, for he had drawn the first blood of mankind's weakness. But what he did not expect was forgiveness. Adam wept, his heart shattered in repentance, and Allah, in His mercy, accepted. That was the first defeat of Iblis, for his plan was not merely to cause sin, but to destroy hope. Yet Allah's mercy was greater than his vengeance. And so Iblis learned that he could wound the hearts of men, but he could not steal the mercy of God. Still, his hatred only grew deeper. He vowed that if he could not destroy mercy, he would bury it. He would plant his whispers in every generation, from kings to beggars, from believers to hypocrites. And so began the long war, not of swords, but of whispers, a war that would last until the final trumpet. He who once stood in light now wandered in shadow. He who once prayed among angels now walked among men as the unseen enemy, a specter of pride, forever jealous of those who still had a chance to bow and be forgiven. Thus the fall of Iblis was complete. He had lost heaven, but not his arrogance. He had lost mercy, but not his mission. And though his throne was now in darkness, his eyes remained fixed upon the sons of Adam. From the ashes of his fall, Iblis rose again, not in light, but in shadow. Banished from the mercy of Allah, he wandered through realms unseen, plotting his vengeance against the very children of the one he refused to bow to. The angels watched in silence as he vowed to corrupt. The Jinn trembled, for they knew what he had become, a soul consumed not by fire, but by fury. And so began his dominion, not a kingdom of thrones or crowns, but a kingdom of whispers. He did not command armies of iron, nor wield swords that gleamed in sunlight. His weapon was subtler, a voice that echoed within the heart, unseen, unheard, yet felt. He moved through the ages unseen by human eyes, watching empires rise and crumble like dust. He whispered to tyrants, "You are eternal." He whispered to the wealthy, "Your riches will protect you." He whispered to the arrogant, "You are the master of your fate." And in every age, men listened. He stood beside Pharaoh as the Nile reflected arrogance and delusion. He whispered to him as he proclaimed, "I am your Lord, the Most High." And Iblis smiled, for he saw himself in that claim. He walked through the palaces of Nimrod, through the marketplaces of the people of Lut, through the shadows of every prophet's struggle. Each time, his goal remained unchanged, to make man forget. Forget who he was. Forget who created him. And yet, through every whisper, Allah sent light. Prophets rose against the tide of deception. Nuh, Ibrahim, Musa, Isa, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Each one standing firm while the world around them drowned in the noise of Iblis. He watched them, powerless against revelation, for every verse recited, every prayer whispered in the night was a blade that cut through his deceit. Still he persisted, for arrogance does not die. It hides, it adapts, it waits. He learned to shape his whispers to suit each soul. To the devout, he whispered pride. To the sinner, he whispered despair. To the scholar, he whispered vanity. To the leader, he whispered control. And to the forgotten, he whispered that Allah no longer cared. But those who knew their Lord recognized his voice. They felt the weight of that unseen whisper and fought it with remembrance. For dhik is light, and light exposes every shadow. Centuries passed, nations rose and fell, languages changed, but the whisper remained the same. It echoed through every corner of the world, in palaces and prisons, in temples and markets, in the silence between two heartbeats. And Iblis watched. He had seen prophets come and go, seen the righteous die in peace and the wicked die in torment. He had watched the angel of death take countless souls, yet he himself remained untouched. Each time he saw a soul depart, he remembered what awaited him, but he buried that fear beneath his vengeance. He whispered, "Not yet. My time has not come." But the truth lingered over him like a storm on the horizon. Every whisper, every lie, every moment of deceit was a step closer to that final meeting he could never escape. For death comes to all, prophets, kings, and angels alike, and one day it would come for him. He could deceive nations, but he could not deceive destiny. And in the silence between two ages, the air began to change. The earth grew still. The realm of the unseen trembled. For the one who had taken countless souls was now descending for his. Time, the one thing Iblis thought he had mastered. For centuries beyond count, he wandered between worlds, a shadow moving through the hearts of men, a whisper behind every rebellion, a flame that refused to die. He had watched prophets rise and empires fall. He had seen the sons of Adam born and buried, their souls taken by a being he knew too well, the angel of death. Each time that angel descended upon a soul, Iblis would watch from the corners of the unseen. He would see the righteous smiling as light embraced them, and the wicked screaming as darkness swallowed them. He had seen every kind of death imaginable, gentle, sudden, glorious, shameless, but never his own. He whispered to himself, "Not yet. My time has not come." And the centuries obeyed his arrogance. But nothing defies the decree of Allah. When the appointed hour arrives, even the fire must kneel before the truth. It began with silence, not the silence of peace, but the silence that comes before a storm. The realms of the Jinn trembled. The winds grew heavy. Even the creatures of the unseen fled, for they felt a power descending unlike any they had known. And then he appeared, Malak al-Mawt, the angel of death. His presence was not of rage nor vengeance, but of divine certainty, the one who takes without delay, who ends every arrogance with a single command. Iblis froze. For the first time in existence, he felt something unfamiliar, fear. Not fear of losing followers, not fear of losing power, but fear of ceasing to exist. He tried to flee. He spread his wings of flame and vanished into the deepest seas, but the angel was already there. He soared into the farthest skies, but the angel was already above him. He hid among his armies of devils, but they scattered like dust, fleeing from the shadow of the one they could not see. Then he screamed, "Grant me more time. Let me live until the trumpet is blown." But the angel did not speak. He never spoke. He only obeyed. Iblis felt his essence flicker. The fire within him turned cold. He looked at his hands. the same hands that once rose in defiance, now trembling like dying embers. And then the angel reached for him. The heavens dimmed, the earth groaned, the very air seemed to split apart. The soul of Iblis, forged in arrogance, tempered in sin, was seized. Unlike the believers, whose souls are drawn out gently, his was torn apart, each thread of his being ripped with unbearable pain. He screamed, not in defiance, but in terror. The one who made nations bow was now forced to bow. The one who defied the command of his Lord was now powerless before another. He cried out to his followers, but they did not answer. They had already turned away, for even devils abandon their master when the decree arrives. And in that final moment, as the angel of death pulled the last breath from his essence, Iblis saw what he had denied all his life, the truth, that everything returns to Allah, that no pride survives his command, that no creation escapes his will. And as his soul was torn away, the heavens rejoiced, the earth exhaled, and the fire that once defied its creator was finally extinguished. The deceiver had met his end, but his story was not yet finished. For even in death, judgment awaits. The universe fell into silence. The fire that once mocked the clay was now extinguished. But death was not the end. For every soul that departs this world must rise again to stand before the one who never dies. Iblis, the deceiver of nations, the whisperer in the shadows, the one who once stood among angels, awoke again, not to life, but to judgment. The earth that had swallowed kings and prophets now split open. The sky tore apart like parchment. The trumpet of Israfil echoed across the remains of creation, calling every being from their graves. And there he stood, Iblis. His form no longer fire, but something formless, broken, twisted by centuries of sin. Around him, the followers who once worshipped him stared in horror. They had called upon him in life. They had obeyed his whispers. But now they saw what he truly was: weak, desperate, defeated. They cried, "Help us! You promised us freedom, power, immortality." And Iblis, trembling in the ruins of eternity, answered with words that pierced through all time. Indeed, Allah promised you the promise of truth, and I promised you, but I betrayed you. I had no authority over you, except that I invited you, and you responded to me. So blame me not, but blame yourselves. Surah Ibrahim 14:22. The crowd of devils and men fell silent. There was no more denial, no more deceit. Even the liar had confessed his lie. And then the judgment began. The throne of Allah rose beyond all comprehension. The scales were set, and justice was absolute. One by one, the prophets were honored. The believers were elevated. And those who had followed the whispers of Iblis were bound in chains. Then came the command, "Bring forth the one who defied the command to bow." The angels seized him. He fought, he screamed, but every cry was swallowed by the roar of divine wrath. He was dragged before the throne, the same throne before which he once stood in pride. But now his arrogance was gone.
No fire remained, only regret. He looked upon the mercy he had rejected. He looked upon the light he had cursed, and he knew this was the end he had chosen. Allah decreed, "Enter the fire, you and those who followed you, and never shall you speak again." The gates of hell opened. The flames roared as if alive, recognizing their master, for he was made from them. But this time, they did not obey him. They devoured him. The fire that once gave him strength became his prison, its heat beyond measure, its pain without death. He screamed until sound itself refused to carry his voice. Every moment burned with the memory of what he once was, a worshiper, a servant, a being who stood near the angels. Now he was nothing. No throne, no followers, no pride, only endless fire. And thus the deceiver met his destiny. The first to rebel became the first to be damned. His story ended not with rebellion, but with surrender, forced, final, and eternal. The angels rejoiced. The righteous bowed in gratitude. The universe exhaled in relief. And in the endless silence that followed, a voice, unseen, unbound, whispered to every soul, "Whoever humbles himself before Allah shall be raised, and whoever exalts himself in arrogance shall fall." And so the story of Iblis comes to an end. The one who once stood among the angels, the one who once glowed in the light of obedience, now lies buried beneath eternal fire. He who refused to bow was bowed by the weight of his own arrogance. He who thought himself immortal was reminded that all must return to the Lord of the worlds. But this story is not merely a tale of punishment. It is a mirror held before every heart. For the same pride that destroyed Iblis can grow within us, quietly, unseen, disguised as self-righteousness. Every time we choose our desire over his command, every time we delay repentance, every time we believe we are safe from his judgment, a spark of that same fire flickers within. But unlike Iblis, we are not cursed to remain in flame. The doors of mercy are still open. The voice of forgiveness still calls, and the one who created us from clay still welcomes those who bow before him. The lesson is simple, yet eternal. It was never the fire that destroyed him. It was the pride that refused to kneel. So bow, not in humiliation, but in gratitude. For every prostration extinguishes the flame of arrogance within, and every whisper of astaghfirullah is a step back toward the mercy he lost. When the trumpet sounds again, and every soul stands before its Lord, no crown will matter, no throne will stand, no name will remain. Only truth, only obedience, only faith. And on that day, the humble will rise higher than kings, and those who once bowed their heads will walk in light. Before this film fades to silence, I invite you, not as a viewer, but as a seeker, to stay with us on this journey. Subscribe to this channel and walk with us through the unseen stories of faith, revelation, and destiny. Because every story, every soul, every rise and every fall leads to one eternal truth. All return to him. All begin and end with him. And in that truth, the flame finds its lesson and the believer finds peace.